Okay, this is my tutorial on how to get your photos from Lightroom over to Photoshop for editing and then back again. It's a fairly simple process. This is a lovely shot that I have here from Amberly Murdoch Photography of a gorgeous baby girl. And if we wanted to take this over and do something like a blanket fade or something like that to it, we would want to do that in Photoshop. So the easiest way to do that is to right click on your file, go edit in, and edit in Photoshop. My daughter is home today and you might hear her in the background, and I am sorry about that. So here we are in Photoshop. We can do whatever we want. So we're in Photoshop, and I'm just going to edit this by putting a number 1 up here in the corner. So when we are done editing, doing whatever we wanted to do to this file, we can go File and go Save. And you'll see that it saves here, and you can actually close this file or leave it open, either way. And when we go back to Lightroom, there's our file, already magically back into Lightroom. So that's pretty simple. But it becomes a slightly more complex if you decide that you want to re-edit this file. So let's say we did the effect and then realized we wanted to delete something or do another change in Photoshop. So we're going to right click, we're going to go Edit In, and we'll get Edit in Adobe Photoshop. But now we get this menu. And this menu basically gives us 3 options that look almost exactly the same, especially these two, copy original or edit original or edit copy. I'm going to show you how these work because it'll be easier to show you rather than describe it. So first off, I need to just do a quick edit of this file, something that we can see really easy. So I'm going to make it blue. Sorry about this, Amberly, but we're going to make your file blue. I'm going to go back to library because it's a little easier from there. But you can totally get to this menu in any of the sections. So right click again, edit in Adobe Photoshop. Now we're going to get this menu. And the first thing we're going to do is we'll use this one first, edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. Now what this actually does is applies all of our adjustments to our file permanently. So we get the file showing all of our Lightroom adjustments in here, which is good if we are doing color work. And it looks exactly the same as it did over in Lightroom. I've put it number 2 on here so we can track this. And we're just going to hit save. Now, you'll notice that it automatically changed the name. It's now called Edit because we definitely want file names with multiple words edit in them. And when we come back over to Photoshop, we now have the original or Lightroom, sorry, we now have the original file. We have number 1 file, which had the 1 edit, but we now have this one, which is number 2. Now, if we take a look at this file in Develop, we notice something interesting. Everything is zeroed off. If we check this file, you'll see that my slider is where I left it, and I can restore this file and make it look normal. But on this file, the edit is zeroed off. Everything is back to 0, which means that if I actually wanted to correct this, I would have a hard time doing it because I can't get the slider to go. So it has permanently applied our edits. That is actually why it has created a separate copy, because it actually did permanently apply these edits to the file. So the baby is permanently blue at this point. Now if we just go back to this one, I'm going to do the same thing, edit in. So right click, edit in Photoshop. But this time I'm going to choose edit a copy. And we'll see what happens when we bring it back over to Photoshop. So here we are in Photoshop. You'll notice that this has now got a unique name as, again, Edit 2. I often will go in and change those names, and you can definitely do that, but for the sake of this, I'm not going to. I'm just going to put a big number 3 on there so we see what happens. And we're going to go back and say save. And just for clarity, I'm actually going to close these files just so they're not sitting there. And when we come back over to Photoshop, here's number 3, but you'll notice that my Lightroom edit has been stripped out of this file. We edited the original file, not the Lightroom edited version. Now, that is going to be a little annoying if you've spent hours working on your Lightroom edits and then you move over to Photoshop to make one small change and it strips out all of your Lightroom edits. So that's a bit irksome. This definitely has its place. It's very good if you want to be making a separate copy. You want a copy that has one edit and a copy that has a different edit. But this is a problem if you're actually trying to keep your Lightroom edits. All right, so the last way that we can move this file over and get this edited, we're going to right-click, edit in Photoshop, and this time we're going to edit the original, and Lightroom will not be visible. I forgot a window open. Let's try that again, shall we? Edit in Photoshop, edit in original, and there it is. And this time we're going to just draw a number 4 on here. My daughter has joined me here. And we're going to go here and we're going to save. Okay, so you'll notice that this is not a unique file name. And so when we go up here and go save, it is going to keep it as that file name. And when we go back to Lightroom, we have our original file still, and now we have this number 4 file. Now, you'll notice it's blue. Even though it wasn't blue here in Photoshop, when we brought it back over to Lightroom, Lightroom reapplied all of the edits that I had done in Lightroom. So if I had done a whole bunch of work on the file, it reapplied it in Lightroom, which is a good thing and a bad thing. If you've done a lot of work in Lightroom and you go over to Photoshop and then you do some clone stamping or anything like that, when the edit comes back across into Lightroom, it can goof up your edit. You can end up seeing your edits a little bit more, and it kind of depends on what you're doing. Something like the blanket fade, you could totally do without it making a problem because it's not really changing one specific part of the file. You're changing a large portion of the file. But this, it definitely brings over your Lightroom edits, and so you're not going to lose them. Unlike number 3, where we edited the copy, and it completely stripped all of the Lightroom edits. Now, personally, the one that I use most often, I most often use the first option on the window because I find that it works the best. But knowing what these options do is basically the easiest way to do it. If you know what it's going to do, then you know that you're going to have to do your edits again, or you're going to have to make some adjustments if the Photoshop edit has changed something. So that is how we do it and how it all works. If you have any questions, definitely PM me. Thanks. Bye.